Folks, it's an evening. It's not good, but you're here with the Cover One Buffalo postgame show with myself, Greg Tompsett, the host of the show, and two other hostages I have with me here,
That's a
Aaron
good way to put
Quinn
it.
and Anthony Prohaska. How are you feeling about your legal obligation to be here, Aaron?
Not great. Not great, Bob. This is one of the most embarrassing moments I've ever, even during the drought years. I don't know that I was ever felt this embarrassed to lose to one of the arguably down there at the bottom of the worst teams, and after a performance of against Miami where you did this in the first half of that game,
but scrapped it out.
But scrapped it out, and just to come off that bye, the way we were talking about this team heading out of the bye after that Tennessee loss, and we're like, well, they come back and they have this FCS. That was me. I'm paraphrasing myself. FCS schedule that they're just going to have a month of a bye, and I'm totally embarrassed. My phone's blown up from other fan bases, and you know what? I just keep saying to all of them, "You're right. You're right." What am I have no defense right now of this team.
Anthony, how's your day going?
Sucks.
Yeah.
I regret when you guys back during the summer were like, "Hey, do you want to join the post game?" And I was like, "Yes."
Yes, this is huge. I'm super excited.
All the wins.
Yeah. I mean, we all feel like crap right now. I think, it's at that point where, I, as a Bills fan and growing up as a Red Sox fan as well, despite the fact that the Sox have won some World Series now, I am forever always like paranoid and waiting for the rug to be pulled out from under me. So I overlook no opponent, regardless of how bad things may seem. I never will. So I wasn't on that whole bye-month crowd, Jacksonville, Miami, Jets, haha. But I thought the Bills would win this game. And my thought going in, even if they won this game, the thought that I was going in my head of was like, okay, the last several weeks we keep doing the whole, and even when the Bills were winning early in the season, we kept doing the whole like, they're not efficient yet, but they're still winning. Wait till things click and they start to turn it around, and and then I was like, well, when do we start to do that? Now it's starting to get to, and it cost us a game today, and we lost it. Especially on the offensive side of the ball, the inefficiencies that we see. But yeah, I don't feel good. I enjoy seeing your guys' faces and hanging out with you guys, but I kind of just want to burrow under a blanket and forget the world exists right now.
I might let you guys bill me at the end of this for a therapy session. You guys can both individually invoice me.
Billable hours.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
So there's a couple things that I'm going to hurry up and take my medicine here at the beginning before it goes further. I had a couple very regrettable tweets about how I wasn't concerned about this game and that there was no chance that they were going to lose. Some mistakes were made. I was on, our man Mike, appreciate you.
Thanks for that.
Going on multiple radio shows. I was on multiple different radio shows talking about how, the nice part is it doesn't have to be perfect and you can nitpick on things in Sean McDermott's history, but we never lose these games. We don't drop these games to opponents that we're supposed to beat. He doesn't beat every big time opponent. There's all kinds of things you can question on other phases of it, but he beats the bad teams. We just never dropped these games that were there. Those were parts of the reasons that I was insanely overconfident in some of those other messages that, hey, McDermott is that disciplined, detail-oriented, one game at a time, super uber focused kind of coach that there's just no chance they were going to drop a game like this. I haven't even fully processed it yet. I haven't even gotten my head around how they gave up 218 yards. How do you lose a game
and 9 points
where you gave up 218 yards? I don't understand. You gave up, 10 total first downs to their offense. I don't understand. And our man Anthony, thank you so much.
Yeah,
man.
thank you so much,
really
Anthony.
Appreciate you.
Great name.
This is by far the hardest part of the job. People ask, all the prep, all the things that go into it. We did some really cool behind the scenes looks that Eric did on Friday night and again this morning on how we go through and create this. And there's a lot of work. There's a lot of things that go into being able to create the content that you guys see. By far, the worst part is coming on live immediately after a loss. These are excruciating things to go through, and we're going to go through the details. We're going to force ourselves to do this, but just from a high level, one, I wanted to take the embarrassing medicine that I need to take because I said some outlandish, foolish things, and also it's it's so frustrating and infuriating to see so many opportunities to just get out of there with a win against a bad team that couldn't even score a touchdown today. We lost to a team that could not score a touchdown today. And it's just so infuriating to have those legitimately, I think, well-earned high hopes with such a deep team. Today was supposed to be a testament of that depth in that, hey, yeah, I know we're missing some people, and yeah, it was concerning. Taryn went out early, but we have one of the deepest rosters in the NFL. We can survive this. We can move through it, just get the win, go home, no big deal. And to now come away with all of those hopes and expectations and just those plans that people had so deflated and so let down is really hard. I'm sure we'll circle around to it at the end of the game. It's one game. It's 1 of 17. It doesn't end anything. There's still plenty of opportunity to do those things. Good Lord, did today suck. Any high-level thoughts before we dive into the details here and get this bad boy over with?
Yeah, I do think you really hit it that this is 1 of 18 or 1 of 17 games here. And I do think that this, as embarrassing as it is right now in the moment, and it's terrible, I think the Bills, one, are going to deserve all the ridicule they get this week, all the memes, all the jokes, all the everything that comes our way. Bills fans on Twitter need to buckle up.
Get ready for it.
The Nick Wrights of the world are coming out full, and they're going to be full swinging, and deservedly so. I'm not going to defend my team right now. No. But long-term picture, I have faith. I have seen enough out of this team with the players on this team. I know the makeup of the guys on this team. I have faith that this is more of a hiccup right now in the season. Like I said on Twitter earlier, a couple years ago, it was gap integrity, right? And teams were running all over the Bills, and there was a month stretch where that's where the big thing was. Last year, defense started slow, and then it was the third quarter. Couldn't come out and get going in the third quarter, and we're losing games there. Again, that was a hiccup. And at the end of the season, we look back at those things like, oh, remember that hiccup that they got over, and we're playing really well again. I'm still on, like, I saw a lot of people saying, like, oh, the season's over. This team has serious, deep concerns. And I understand that call and that concern right now in the moment. I've just seen enough, I think, evidence from this team and this coaching staff and the makeup of these guys that I believe wholeheartedly that they will correct this and they'll be playing their best football as the year goes on. But right now, in the moment, this is the most embarrassing thing I've ever had to do, is come on and talk about this Buffalo Bills performance in this week.
Quick shout out to my grandma. Hey, grandma. Giving credit to the Jacksonville
Thanks for
defense,
being here, Graham.
Which she's right. I mean, she's right that, out of all the things that happened, we'll get into the officiating in a moment. We'll get into the mistakes. Some of that talent on the defensive side really stepped out for Jacksonville. And let's start with where we start every week. Josh Allen, 31 of 47, 264 yards, 2 interceptions, took 4 sacks, 5 carries for 50 yards, and then added on another fumble, 3 critical turnovers. We'll get to the offensive line in a minute. They're going to take their medicine. The offensive line is going to get called out for a larger portion of this game than Josh Allen. However, do not absolve Josh Allen from the blame in this game. This was his worst game of 2021. This is his worst game in over a calendar year. You need to go back into early last year, maybe into 2019 to get to that point. I thought all of the turnovers were on him. The first interception, there was a perfectly fine pocket, and he just didn't see that nickel corner cutting in front of Cole Beasley. Then the other one is, the absolute stereotypical Josh Allen can't live to fight another day, trying to throw it while you're on your way down. And the other Josh Allen, from Jacksonville, who had a phenomenal game, picks it off and is there. I'll give him. It's hard to hold on to the ball with 6 guys coming around you on the fumble, so I'll give him that one's hard, and that one's as much on the offensive line as anybody else. But those 2 interceptions, you simply can't have it. In that we give him all the praise when we win. We joke about it that he probably should be the player of the game every single time, and we just try to pick other people just to give other people credit. Josh Allen was a reason we lost today, and we haven't said that in a long time.
Yeah, Anthony, I'll let you start.
Yeah, it was a very interesting performance from Josh. I really want to. This is one of the few games where I wanted to get into the all 22 to take a look at Josh and where he faulted. I felt like he had some more opportunities, with some guys open downfield from what it looked like from the broadcast angle. One of them just most recent, that for the 4th and 15 to really end the game. I thought he had Manny Sands open, and I thought he could have got him the ball a little bit. I saw that a
Tommy Sweeney was kind of in front of him.
Yeah.
And I'm sure when we look at the film, it's going to be frustrating, but I think that's the only thing I could tell myself is that when he looked, Tommy Sweeney was kind of like blocking the view, and Sweeney was only open about 6 yards down the field. Yes, he was short. And then Sanders was another 10 behind him, but he was at the sticks and open.
And the corner was right behind Manny, so maybe from like the sideline angle from the all-22, you can see maybe the throw really wasn't there. But I
both
find
Sanders
myself
and Diggs would have been tough completions.
Yep. And I find myself sitting there thinking, just thinking that from Allen's perspective, like I didn't think Jacksonville's game plan was tremendously diverse. I didn't think they showed a lot of looks that I don't think the Bills wouldn't have been expecting. They played zone. The couple times they played man, the Bills beat them for it. And then I thought Jacksonville course corrected and was like, nope, we have to get back to zone. I think a lot of it, I know we're focusing on Allen here. I think a lot of it for me comes down to the play calling and the lack of diversity and the adjustment that we had that I think affected Allen's game. And but if we're just focusing solely on him, he did not have a great game. He was not sharp. I thought he left some plays on the field. We saw a little bit of sugar high Josh Allen today, making too many types of plays, and the ball security was an issue again. And he just didn't look right from a mentality perspective and an on-field perspective. Like I just saw
a lot of weird body language.
Yeah, things that we haven't seen from him before. And again, we've seen games where he struggled or the Bills haven't been right, and we haven't seen him operate like that. So it was a very confusing performance, and one that was obviously very poor, especially given the expectations we set for him and this offense. But yeah, bad day from Josh Allen all around, really.
Yeah, this was a Tyrod offense, right? It flashbacks to the playoff game where you have an elite defense that's carrying your team, but with Josh Allen and the body of work that we have from him and the type of player that we as Bills fans, I think league-wide people believe he is, that at any moment he would get the ball and just lead this team down the field and score. And whoever scored one touchdown was going to win this game. Like that's where I was at in the second half. I was like, all we need is Allen to put together one touchdown drive, and he couldn't do it. Yeah. The ball security issues, I'm not so much worried about the interceptions. I've seen Josh Allen play with enough poise for enough period of time where this was a weird game. I can chalk up the hero ball interceptions. I don't think that's a thing. But the security of the ball in the pocket and running is a concern to me. It's something that's lingered here throughout his career. I don't like that at all because he is a weapon, and I want him to be able to use his legs. Because, in fact, I think he didn't do enough of that. We saw him start out this game utilizing his legs a little bit, picking up some yardage. And then as the game went on and pressure was mounting, I thought Josh did a poor job manipulating the pocket.
One more carry for 1 yard the rest of the game. After he had 3 carries for 49 yards in the first half, second half, 1 carry for 1 yard.
And a lot of this pressure, we saw interior pressure quite a bit, but then we saw a lot of pressure coming around the edge and spaces for Josh to step up and extend like we've seen from Josh a number of times. And he just didn't seem to have any comfort in the pocket. I don't know if that was from previous interior pressure getting to him and that he didn't feel like he could step up. I'm not sure where it was, but he did not use his legs enough and the weapon that he is to take this game over at any point. And that's what you need from a guy that they paid this massive contract to be the star QB. When things aren't going well, flags aren't going your way, it feels like the refs are against you, your line isn't playing well, you need to be above some of that, especially against a team like the Jacksonville Jaguars. I can see if this...
I don't know if you guys remember this play late in the game. It was actually on the one where Josh kind of started to run, but then tried to dump it to Gabe Davis, and he wasn't able to catch it.
On that last drive.
Play where it was just a tight end on the left side and everyone else on the right side. It was set up exactly how they set up the quarterback power sweep, and Jags had nobody on that side of the ball. I was legitimately excited about the fact that, they're going to call the quarterback power sweep. This is going to be great. He's going to convert and he's going to go. And then when they didn't, I was like, why didn't, it was right there. It was wide open. Why didn't you? And it's just run the ball.
Yeah, I needed him to kind of put the team on his back, and he didn't do that at any point today. So frustrated there. But I do think, we'll have to dig into the All-22. I didn't hate play calling today. So we talked a lot, really ad nauseum here this last week, especially on second and long. I don't think they ran it once on second and long. We talked about what an issue that was, and it set them up for a lot of nice third down. They didn't end up converting on all of them, but they were setting themselves up nicely. I'm not saying going for the second and long is a bad thing. I don't think there's any correlation between a bad offensive performance and doing the right thing on second and long. But I thought playing calling was fine. There was a number of times where they would throw screens to try to offset some of this pressure, and just the execution was poor across the board. Even when Josh Allen was getting easy looks, guys were getting wrapped up and tackled. Nobody was breaking. There was no yards after catch in this game for the Bills. Diggs had a little bit on one of those screens, but that's an issue when you're playing a team like this and they're tackling one. You can't break free and get some yards after catch. That's also going to impact Josh. But Greg, you're right. The turnovers, in my opinion, primarily on Josh, and that's how you lost the game. So yeah. Josh Allen, in my opinion, lost this game.
And you know, we'll get to some of the coaching. There's plenty of blame to go there, but Brian Daboll didn't call the "Hey, Cole Beasley, drop it when you're wide open for a huge first down conversion." Gabe Davis, drop it when you have a running start, a head start, and wide open field in front of you. I don't know if he would have scored on that play, but he might have broke off 30 yards. There was nobody there, and he had a running start. Brian Daboll didn't call the "Hey, Zach Moss, drop it" when you're at the goal line. It probably could have caught it and pivoted to score or to have 4th and inches and a play call at the goal line. You know, there's plenty of execution.
Didn't make Ike Bacher go off sides.
Yeah, on 4th and 2, where you have a chance to be able to convert. For the Jacksonville fans in the chat, hey, have a day, man. You guys won and won the game. You know, hey,
lap it up around us.
You know, so we can pivot to the run game. They had 9 carries for 25 yards at 2.7 yards a carry. Super exciting. Any comments about the running game?
I'll take this one first, if you don't mind, actually, because I've definitely, I think, given more leeway and leash to these running backs and said, you know, and there has been moments where I see things I like from both of these running backs. I don't think it's all in the backs. I think the shuffling of the interior line, you know, and not having your best 5 linemen, even though I don't think the best 5 is still good enough at the NFL level, is an issue for this running game. I think it was an issue for the pass game and definitely an issue for this running game. But these backs, kind of same to Josh Allen's point, I think they're mediocre running backs. And so even when things break down, these guys don't have really that ability to make the play themselves. And this is, I know people make fun of me for pounding the table for first round talent running backs and stuff, but this is why you want kind of super explosive, crazy trait guys, is that in a game like this, you need a player to make something happen out of nothing. And Singletary and Moss aren't those guys. They can, you know, get to the second level and make a guy miss or run over a guy, but they're not shifty to get out of these backfield. There's no holes right now. And when there is holes, they collapse super quick.
I was going to say, Tommy with a funny comment there. They aren't great, but they might lead the league in broken tackles behind the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, no, it's bad. They really are facing off contact right at the point where they're getting the handoff a lot of times. Like, this isn't a very good offensive line, so they're not helping, but the backs aren't dynamic enough to do anything. Agnew, I like Agnew a lot, but that type of speed where he has the ability to get to the outside and make some plays, the Bills right now are missing that. And I'm at the point with this running game where I don't think Breida is the answer, but I would like to see if we need some speed injected into this line and that you can get around the outside maybe and just beat out bad blocking with speed. I don't think that's the answer, but I'm getting to the point where I'm desperate enough. Run game, not good enough. It's a mix of the line and the backs. I don't know that they have the horses to make that any better this year.
Yeah, I went super down the rabbit hole for this past week's episode, disguise coverage with the running game, and
very nicely done as well.
Oh, thank you very much. Appreciate that. I'm sure you're not biased at all. The most frustrating conclusion that I came to with it was just that it's literally like the line and the running backs combined. The problem that we have, and granted there's many problems, but the offensive line isn't good enough to the point where they can make up for average running backs. And the running backs aren't good enough to the point where they can carry a subpar offensive line. And we're not holding blocks long enough to allow Singletary and Moss to get through because they're not the fastest guys and they don't have that type of burst where it's like, we just need you to hold on to your block for a half a second and then boom, we'll get through the hole and we're gone. And we saw some holes open a little bit today and then they closed almost immediately. The offensive line, I know we'll talk about in the next segment where I'll dive into it a little more. They did not help out the backs, but I think, we're continuing to see Singletary and Moss are serviceable backs. I think they're solid in a rotation. I don't think either of them are terrible. I don't think either of them are bad, but they are not game changers. They are not difference makers. They are not somebody that the defense has to account for, regardless if Josh Allen and the Bills passing attack is amazing and fantastic. Like, I know teams are going to look to that as the number one thing they have to stop, but they look in the backfield from a defensive perspective. And I don't think teams are like, okay, well, not only do we have to account for the passing attack, but we also have to account for Devin Singletary, and we also have to account for Zach Moss. Like, I don't think they're doing that. I think they're just like, if one of them get the ball, cool, like whatever. Singletary made a couple plays today, but I also thought he left some yards on the board. He got a couple of those dump offs, down low with just guys in zone coverage.
Couldn't make the guy miss.
Yep, could not make a guy miss, kept getting wrapped up. And for a guy who does not have long speed, his calling card is the proverbial, like, make a guy miss in a phone booth, and he was not making anybody miss. He did on one play towards the end of the game, but he had a lot of other opportunities where he just was not. And we do not have that burst. We do not have that explosive, game-changing level play from the running back position, and it's definitely a dynamic that I think can help the offense. I've continued to say, I said it throughout the offseason, and you guys have said it as well. We thought the Bills needed to run the ball. We don't need like balance. We don't need 50-50 or 60-40, but we need to have some semblance of a running game to keep defenses off balance, make them account for that aspect of our team, and we don't have that right now. And today we tried to supplement that with the short passing game and the screens and the quick glance routes, and Jacksonville was all over it. And it would be nice to have another playmaking, game-changing aspect to our team from the backfield, and we don't have that. And on days like this where the passing offense is not clicking, it's going to be a problem.
Can Odell Beckham play running back?
You know what? I'd be fine with it and put him in the backfield and let him run option routes out of the backfield. Right. I'd be fine with it. Whatever.
Turn him into a receiver.
And you know what? Maybe at this point, because the running game is so bad, let's just go full tilt into the passing tack. Sign Odell, and we're doing nothing but 10 and 11 personnel and
double zero.
No running backs, double zero.
5 receivers, no tight ends, no.
Boom.
When
Knox
should help us pick up the blitz and all the problems along the offensive line.
Just
spread it out, leave them on their own.
Everything's great, super simple. Yeah, we have
there
the
are
line
no
that can
problems
handle
here.
it. No, everything will be great.
Speaking of those receivers, it was, a frustrating day by Bills receiver standards. Obviously, you could see Cole Beasley was gutting through this. He had no interest in being tackled. That is not a slight at him. I respect the fact that he's gutting through.
I wouldn't want to get out of bed with a rib injury.
Yeah, playing with broken ribs and what he's gutting through. I get it. Like, that sucks. It's unfortunately that hurt us because he had to go down immediately every time he caught the ball. You could tell he was not trying to gain any extra yards. He was immediately going down to the ground. So that results in 8 catches for 33 yards on 11 targets. Diggs had a solid game, but they still struggled to get him the ball. I'm assuming when we rewatch this, we'll see bracket coverage and things like that. And then, we saw some drops. You saw why all the people clamoring for, why doesn't Gabe Davis get more and more run? Let's dial back how special we think he is. That those were some killer drops, that we ended up with today. And Sanders had a good game, but again, dropped a ball. Beasley dropped a ball. I don't know that Diggs had a drop, but had a couple tough catches we've seen him make before that maybe he can come up with. I don't think they were the problem today, but I don't know that they went out of their way to create anything special per se.
I thought that last Bills drive, 2nd and 10, Josh scrambles out like I want him to and nail the fastball to Davis for Emmanuel Sanders for 19 yards. I thought that, and then the a 22-yard third down one to Sanders?
3rd and 22. Yep.
3rd and 22. I thought those two plays were at both those times. I was like, here we go. That is going to change the way this game is going, and it didn't happen. I do think Cole Beasley, we talked about it last week, even though he got a number of receptions, him being injured and not being able to be the guy that jump-started the offense and get it going really hurt. I think they tried to do that with Diggs, the drive, two drives before the end of the game where they went like really 3 plays in a row. I think they went to Diggs. It was like back-to-back on the first 2 plays. And on the third time, they went to him again. They started to feed him, and I thought that was going to be the thing to jumpstart the offense. And again, the offense stalled. So they really, Diggs and Sanders did their thing in this game. And even Beasley got his receptions, but nobody was really able to do enough to get that momentum to jumpstart this offense. and give them the type of drive to get past that hurdle and even really struggling to get into field goal range. So my biggest issue with this, and we'll have to look at the numbers, it didn't feel like there was a substantial increase in this room this week, but is yards after catch. I was complaining about it a couple weeks ago. I think there's a thing here with yards after catch and Bills receivers, and I don't know if it's the type of routes they're running, where ball placement's coming in from Josh Allen. I think some of that short screen stuff is ball placement. The reason we're not getting a good amount of yards is Josh Allen turning Cole Beasley around the wrong way with a little bit of inaccuracy on some of those screens. It looks like you just got to get the ball out to those guys, but you want to get the ball out so that they're in a position to run as soon as they get the ball, right? Like if you make a receiver turn, that adds a second that you don't have. And you see Cole Beasley get wrapped up at the line. I think there's some issues here with a ball placement, some of the routes called, but we need to find a way to get Stephon Diggs yards after catch, to get Cole Beasley when he gets healthy again, some yards after catch. Because I think those are the types of plays that jumpstart this offense. We didn't see a lot of explosive plays from this offense against a Jacksonville secondary that was giving up the most explosive plays in the NFL. That's not okay.
I know you brought it up, Anthony, but I do appreciate Eric lightening the mood that Corey
has
had another bad hold and Mason Crosby missed again. He's not the answer. Just remember.
Someone else commented that Crosby
I didn't know that
Boho
yet today, so
I
I almost actually spit my tea out just now. I didn't know that happened today.
So I believe what they're telling us is it just happened while we're
it just happened. Yeah, that
right.
the Chiefs.
So I'm gonna say if Cole Beasley's not healthy and Gabe Davis isn't taking a step forward, I don't think it's the end of the world if they entertain it. I'll throw it out there.
He's not going to get through waivers to the Bills.
We'll
he
see how
didn't clear
everything goes. From everything I understand, what was reported this morning by Adam Schefter was the way that they restructured his deal was intentionally to make it difficult for any team to claim him, so that he would get to waivers through waivers and get to choose his destination. I don't know that the amount of targets available in the Bills offense is what he's going to choose. If they were to pursue
and after today, does he think the Bills are a contender?
Seriously, is that where you're trying to hit your wagon to? Is this offense? But yeah, wanting him, I think it's less crazy now than 3 hours ago.
You thought it was pretty crazy.
I did.
The other night, I saw some of your tweets.
Still not. Yeah. It's still not what we need, because unless he can play guard, it doesn't really freaking matter. For sure. But speaking of which, let's talk about this offensive line. The offensive line today was horrendous. We'll see. I think I felt that way last week, and it wasn't quite as terrible as what it was when you rewatch. They were just not great. So now switching it over into a game like this where we knew going in, and Anthony, I'm annoyed at you. You kept reminding us that, hey, their defensive line might kind of have an advantage here. They have some talent on this defensive line. Smoot and Allen and those guys are actually kind of good. Going in, I didn't expect this. I didn't expect it to be like this. And I think what it's shown us is we know we have weaknesses at guard. We know that even if we switch back and get Spencer Brown back in, Feliciano back in, we're still not good. Like, that's maybe it's better. Yeah, Darrell Williams back at guard is an answer. He's good at guard. He's fine at guard. Feliciano is not an answer or an upgrade over them. Maybe he's slightly better than Ford or Bakker, but he still has worse games. He has horrible games mixed in. What really is frustrating is that the guys we see as answers and anchors, Mitch Morse and Deion Dawkins, are showing that they're, when people debate about quarterbacks, and the one analogy, are you a truck or are you a trailer? Or are you driving it to where it needs to go, or are you just going along for the ride? I kind of had convinced myself that Dawkins and Morse were guys who could stabilize and help the guys in between them. And now, not only are they not able to raise, rising tide lifts all boats, not only are they not able to raise the play of inferior players in between them when we shuffle it around and have a Ford or a Bakker in there, they're allowing their play to get brought down, because then either, similar to Tremaine Edmonds last year when Milano went out, when you're trying to do too much and you're trying to do two jobs at once and you're worrying about the handoff going to that guy, so then you don't get back into your spot quickly enough. There was a lot of that today. There was a ton of that today. We kept falling for stunts and D-line games over and over again. and I have a feeling it's only going to look worse when we go and look at it again.
I want to get Ant's answer on this because I know you looked into offensive line this week and you were talking about the stunts offline before going on. But I want to counter to that point, Greg. I agree with you that Morse and Dawkins, I want to see them play up to that level. It's one thing when John Feliciano is the one weak link along your offensive line and that you can play, hide that play. I think it's another thing when you have 3-2. Like you have 3 weak links to 2 strong. I think for most players in the league, that's hard to overcome playing along an offensive line with 3 weak links. And so I'm not going to be too harsh on those guys who I know I've seen enough on them that I know that they're anchors. I think they'll be fine going forward. I'm not going to hold that against them today.
The offensive line was god awful today.
Yeah.
Morse, I think, was the least bad. I didn't notice him doing things terribly. Daryl I'm going to start from right tackle and go across. Daryl Williams was god awful. The one I don't remember. This is sad. Because I can't remember which one it was because there were so many bad reps. One of the sacks on Josh Allen, I think it's Smoot comes off the edge. Daryl Williams is a good half second late out of his stance. The rest of the offensive line moves and everybody moves and he's still here. And it's he's like, oh, we snapped it. And Smoot just runs right around him. Even when he was
virtually untouched. He might have technically made contact.
He gets a hand on his shoulder pad, but Smoot is just like, get out of here, and just keeps going. And then even when he was getting off the line on the proper snap count, just beat outside time and time again on his outside shoulder, given a soft. He wasn't even the edge rushers on that side, and they varied him up. They weren't even creating a soft edge. He was giving it to them, and they were just turning him easy. Cody Ford, some really bad reps, and then some reps that were not terrible, but I think he showed that he's a depth guy and really nothing more at this point. He did not have a very good game. Morris was meh. Ike Bodker, not good. The false start was upsetting. He got destroyed in pass protection multiple times, just getting driven back right into Josh Allen's face. Dawkins did not play good again. He continues to get beat around the edge.
That blindside sack, dude. I thought Josh wasn't going to get up.
Yeah,
no,
seriously.
I was worried for that. That's one that we're starting to see. We're starting to see that a lot from Deion Dawkins, where he's just getting beat around the edge so bad. And I don't know if it's lingering effects from COVID or shape or anything like that, because I don't remember seeing him get beat like that so bad, but he is just getting speed rush nonstop to the edge. He can barely get his hands. Guys are just swatting him off and he's done. This offensive line, I said it my fear the last several weeks was this offensive line being bad to the point that it holds back the rest of the offense. And granted, there were backups today. We had Cody Ford in the game and we had Ike Bodker in the game, but Daryl Williams was at his natural position today, the position we paid him to play this offseason, and he looked terrible. And he's supposed to be somewhat of an anchor as well, like he was last year with Dawkins on the other side. And a thing I also mentioned this past week, I'm fearful when the Bills play teams that have studs up front. And I don't even think Josh Allen and Smoot are at that all-pro level, but they are very good. We've seen it multiple times. We saw it against, and I'm not just bringing up the losses, but we saw it against Pittsburgh. We saw it against Tennessee with Simmons and Landry. We saw it today against Jacksonville. Teams that have horses up front are able to just dominate and take over games. And then I think what's also disappointing, this is where the play calling piece for me comes in. Because Aaron, to your point, I think the execution was poor more so than the play calling was terrible. But I thought at some point there needed to be some sort of counter, because the Jags defensive line was just teeing off on the Bills offensive line play after play. And we didn't really counter with any kind of motion, any kind of things to keep them off balance. And that's also where a run game starts to help a little bit, something that you can do to stabilize, make things easier on your offensive line.
Bring back the jet sweep.
Just do something else. I'm willing to just I don't know, I'd settle for a fumble Rooski at this point. Just something to make the defense be wait, what? Because we keep getting into these spots where stud players are able to just tee off, and it was a very poor game from the offensive line. The reason I didn't go harder on Josh is because I think, granted, he's with the player that he should be and what we paid him to be, he's got to be able to overcome and he has to be able to step up. But I think the poor offensive line play was a significant reason for his poor play today, and it continues to hinder this offense that has studs and weaponry and really strong pieces on the periphery. But internally, man, in those trenches, just it's a weakness at this point. And granted, again, we had a lot of backups in the game, and hopefully Spencer Brown coming back stabilizes things. And I'm in the same spot with you guys. I didn't think I was going to be like, man, I can't wait for John Feliciano to come back. It's a dark spot right now.
Yeah. I was pounding the table this offseason for help at interior offensive
Yes.
line. I thought it was way more of a priority than cornerback 2. And I'm not selling cornerback 2 short. That's not also a priority, but it was way more so. And I think people thought that I was a little over the top against John Feliciano. He's well liked. Like people like this
or
guy.
Super pro Levi Wallace.
Yeah, right. But this might be where Brandon Beane and his staff in that front office have dropped the ball the most in his time here, is addressing that interior offensive line. It's a huge deal. It needs to happen this next year. This could be the Achilles heel of this team going forward. That's probably I said I wasn't concerned long-term. If there is a concern that I'm gleaning from this long-term, it's that offensive line mix of how it's going right now, but specifically in the interior.
Well, I mean, it's fair to say they have 0 hits. No. Like they've spent money in a spot. They've done, they drafted 1 hit and he traded him to Cleveland. So we'll pivot over here because our friends at West Herr have sponsored our show for the drive of the game, and for the first time of show record.
Sorry, West Herr.
There's no drive of the game. Like you had it perfectly.
We can give one to the Jags.
At the end there. This was the time for the drive of the game. They had it. They had the ball in the fourth quarter, driving down. They're sitting there. They just picked up a first down, got their 2-minute warning, 42 yards to go. Even had a little dump off to Devin Singletary on first down. 2nd and 7. They're right there on the way in, and then it goes incomplete, sack.
The sack was terrible. Yeah.
I'm
pretty sure
the sack
Josh
was
also
lucky.
He fumbled on that sack.
I think that sack is the one. I think that's the one where Darrell Williams didn't get off the snap.
Yeah.
They both were doing smoot sacks. The other one also was doing smoot. So but either one. And when it happened, I believe I heard the referees making an announcement at one point, but you couldn't hear what they were saying. I believe what they were saying was that he was forward progress was called, and he was called, and they said that it's not eligible to be reviewed, which is I think why you also didn't have Urban Meyer having more of a coronary on the sideline screaming
because it was absolutely a fumble.
Because it for sure was a fumble. The reason it wasn't was already explained. They just with lots of other things, like we never saw the penalty that was apparently on Darrell Williams, maybe on Deion Dawkins for
or the Levi. We didn't see
never saw the Levi taunting one. So there's lots of things not explained. But our friend there in the comments, the drive of the game was driving to the liquor store.
Driving to the liquor store to go get some Uncle Jumbos.
Pick up some Uncle Jumbos.
That's it.
So we apologize for our friends over at West Herr. They've been awesome sponsors of the show.
I got a little one.
Obligated for the team to give us some ammunition, and Anthony has a glimmer of hope and a silver lining for us here.
I'm going to spin it to the other side because I thought the defense played well. I'm going to go right before. So Josh Allen fumbles the ball when we're down by 3. Jacksonville gets the ball with 5 minutes and 30 seconds left. Yeah. They go 5 plays, 10 yards, only 2 minutes and 31 seconds. Granted, Dane Jackson gets burned on a double move by Marvin Jones, and Lawrence misses him. Granted, Tre'Davious White could have probably had that interception. But the defense answered, got the ball right back in the offense's hands, set them up for the real potential West Herr drive of the game. But a nice, a small, tiny little,
came up
positive.
Clutch.
The
Bills, they needed it there. They came up clutch. Even the one before, quick 3 and outs. The defense, and let's might as well just pivot over. So look at the defensive breakdown here. You're now in a spot where, I think that the penalties bled over into it. A couple of the scoring drives were frustrating. 10 plays, 27 yards, 10 plays, 38 yards, 12 plays, 54 yards. The 3 scoring drives were 54, 38, and 27 yards. It's really hard to be mad, like to step back and be mad at a defense. They gave up 218 yards, no touchdowns, 3 field goals, and the 3 field goals were, again, I'll rattle it off again, 10 plays, 27 yards, 12 plays, 54 yards, 10 plays, 38 yards. The longest scoring drive was a 54-yard drive. It's really hard to be mad, and yet I'm somehow still kind of deflated by the defense.
And that's without-
It's probably unfair.
That's without Taron Johnson goes out early
Almost
with
the
a
entire
concussion,
game.
Yeah.
almost the entire game. Jordan Poirier, one of the most important players on the team, also out, and you still have that type of strong performance from the defense. I'm not mad at this defense at all. If I'm the guys on the defensive side of the ball, you're holding me back, like the gif of Real Housewives where she's just yelling at the person. You're holding me back from the offense because you in the NFL,
their
dude,
job.
if you hold the team to 9 points, you
9 points.
absolutely have to win that game. I don't care what. We can nitpick some of the things on the defensive side of the ball. I'm sure we will this week.
Some of the penalties were on the defenders.
Sure.
Where it doesn't count as yards given up or plays given up, but there were some dumb penalties that
Yes.
let that happen. That is on them.
Absolutely. Yes, but the defense absolutely did enough to win this game outside
100%,
of getting a
100%.
pick six and
Yeah.
having a scoring play on defense. And this is the kind of game where it felt like, holy cow, the defense might have to go above and beyond and score on just to get through this game. And they weren't able to do that, so I guess you could go that far. But I'm still super impressed with this defense. They should feel exactly like the Bills used to feel during the Tyrod years, where the defense did enough to win games and you couldn't put up more than field goals. It was embarrassing. So I'm down to break down every phase of the defense and
Anthony
pick through it. But
lead us off on the defensive line.
Yeah, well, one, I'm hoping that Oliver is okay. I know when he got banged up on that play, I didn't think he came back in after, so I'm hoping that. Damn, poor Sean.
Sean, your life is valuable, and
here,
we
let's
love
read
you.
it for the podcast, folks.
Yeah,
What is it?
Any words of encouragement before I head to my man cave and end it all?
No, don't do
obviously,
that.
We love you very, very much. Hang in there with us. We'll get you through to the end of the show.
You still got the Sabres. Oh wait, you said encouraging.
You're the
sorry.
worst.
That's very, very poor emergency management. That's,
Sorry, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not so great.
we're there for you, Sean. We'll help you through the rest of the show.
Yeah, I'm keeping an eye on what the injury report looks like for Ed Oliver. He's been so good this year, and he's so important. So that's like where my head is at right now. But I thought the defensive line played well. We saw AJ Epinesa get some good pass rushes. We saw Jerry Hughes make plays in the run game and in the pass. I think I think this is getting lost in the play of the team as a whole. Mario Addison continues to show that in his reduced role, he can be a terror on third downs. He had a sack. He had a couple really good pressures as well. Starr made some plays. I thought the defensive line played well I think as we have this entire defensive discussion, the defense played well as a whole. I would have liked to see more run stops and better gap fits from the defensive line on first down. One of the things that all the metrics and numbers showed, and what Eric and I talked about on Friday, Greg, when you were there with us, and again on the pregame today, was Jacksonville's tendency to run on first down. Like, you can almost guarantee and bet your house on it that they were going to run on first down. They continued to do that like almost every single first down. So it would have been nice to get a little more penetration on those first downs. But they have a good offensive line, a sneaky good offensive line that people don't know about. They execute well. So kudos to them for doing well. But I thought the defensive line played really well. Even Vernon Butler, who I know a lot of people were confused about him starting again, I don't think he was god awful. He had a couple good plays and then some couple not so good plays, but he was probably the worst. And even that, he was still at like average level. So I thought good performance.
I crushed him on the one play where he got washed down on the one cutback by Carlos Hyde.
Yes,
and
but also
honestly, on the very next play, he made a really nice tackle.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
highs and lows on that
And Cyril
cutback.
Neal had something to do with that.
That's
play
what I
too,
was going to
yeah.
say. That cutback, I was more Cyril Neal was just like, no, I'm going to keep running.
I'm just
Oh,
gonna
wait, there's a
run
run.
by it.
I don't even know what he was. I rewound it because I thought maybe was he like in man coverage on a motion man?
Yeah,
and then I
no, I
was
think
like,
so.
no, he wasn't. There was nobody
He
going in
wasn't?
motion. He just overran
Oh,
it
I thought he
so
was
hard.
following.
No,
Yeah.
I don't know if he thought it was a pass or what. It was bad. But
Tough.
yeah, kudos to the defensive line. They played well as a unit and had some really standout performances again, which we've seen.
Yeah, I'm sure there were some gap integrity issues. We'll see, because there was a number of rushing plays that got into that second layer and caused some problems for the Bills. But again, that's very much nitpicking. I'm very happy. My, I guess, biggest point is I think Jerry is still playing at a very productive level. Again, not getting the sacks, but he is playing at a level of beating his
Impact
man
in the game.
Yeah, winning his game, doing his 1 of 11, and you hit it. Mario Addison in this role on third downs, he got a lot of flack this summer. People thought he was going to be the Trent Murphy, this contract, and just no production out of this guy, and get him out of the way for these young guys. And I'm still on board. Epinesa showed me again that there's some more meat on the bone for him to get in all these games too. But Mario Addison's making it hard to give up reps, especially on those passing downs. He's winning when he needs to, and he's doing a great job. So I'm very happy along this defensive line because you needed that. Without Jordan Poyer in this game, you needed the defensive line to step up and get Trevor Lawrence off his spots and help protect without a Taron Johnson and having Sarah Neal in this game. You have to get a little bit more production out of your defensive line. I thought they did a pretty good job keeping Lawrence off his spots, making him extend plays and get out of the pocket. And they did a pretty good job this game. Again, a lot of hard to find stuff to be mad about on this defense.
You shift into the linebacker play, very similar. There was, again, there's probably a missed tackle or two for Tremaine Edmonds that I was
He's a little high on some of those open field.
And guys are able to get a little something going there. He got picked on the 1 4th down play where they didn't show a great replay of it, but I could tell what happened. Jamal Agnew ran one of those whip plays where he came in, fake like he was going across, cut back out, and Edmonds got caught up in the wash of
what a really good route for
guys
Agnew
in front of him. Yeah. Fantastic, and he's an elite athlete who's crazy. He's faster than any single person on our defense. Yeah. So getting him isolated on Tremaine Edmonds on that kind of route is great play calling design on their part, and it worked. 22 yards on a 4th and 2. Overall, I thought they played well. You saw the couple tackles for loss by both him and Milano. You saw them in there doing that. Were you guys a little bit surprised? They didn't mix maybe a little more AJ Klein in there instead of Saran Neal? Do you think there was when Taron Johnson goes out, obviously Taron Johnson's in there, he plays 100% of snaps. When he went out, do you think there was any consideration to that, or you think it was just too much of a risk of him getting isolated in coverage?
I'll start. I think with the types of heavier packages that the Jags use, their tight ends are still on the lighter side and more route running than they are pass blocking. So I was thinking maybe that's why they left Ciaran Neal in and they were okay with that. But I would have been in favor, especially from a first down perspective, with the numbers and tendencies all showing Jags are going to go heavy on first down, run the ball on first down. I would have been okay with Klein. I've also been, and I don't know, maybe it was just that game and the whole team was amped up. The Kansas City game where AJ Klein played a lot because there was no Milano, he added just a level of tenacity and chippiness and kind of violence to that defense. And I thought that would have been a welcome sight in today's game where the team seemed a little flat. So yeah, I literally said to myself in my notes, I was like, no AJ Klein ? With heavier stuff. But I know they like Ciaran Neal and maybe they thought the Jags were still trying to bait him into something. So,
My bad. Jordan Poyer was playing. I barely even saw him. He had 4 tackles in this game, and I feel like I didn't see him at all in this game.
It was questionable coming in, but he did play. I was worried he got hurt. When you said that, I was worried he got hurt during the game like Taron Johnson.
I thought he didn't. Yeah, for some reason, I thought he didn't start, and then I didn't even notice him.
Well, you know what?
Even though he had a tackle for loss.
If he didn't play, we would have won because Jaquan Johnson would have just put on the Superman cape and just carry the team to victory. Aaron knows. Look at that face. He agrees. Same high five.
So now moving into the secondary, obviously today was a day where you saw the value of Taron Johnson and the lack of, that is one of the few spots that they have built depth. There's legitimate depth at many important spots on this team. The secondary is maybe not one of them. Dane Jackson came in for one play. He got roasted on a double move. Then you have Ciaran Neal, who I thought did okay. Like he had some, right. He had some decent plays. He's always going to be okay rallying to tackle on short crossers and coming up to hit on wide receiver screens and swing passes. I don't know that I saw him make an awful lot of plays on the ball downfield. And that, that's a play that was, and then obviously got called for the defensive pass interference because he couldn't get his head around and just face guarded and interfered with him.
The defensive pass, this is one I'm having a tough time with because Micah Hyde has the same play a quarter later and nobody calls.
He turns and gets his hand back. He got his hand on the ball. Yes.
Micah did not turn his head. The ball almost hit him off the back of the head.
Though.
He never turned his head on that play. I'll have to go back and watch it.
Go back and watch. He got his hand up and played the ball.
I think that call is inconsistently called throughout the NFL.
You're also right there. You're also right. That's accurate.
And players don't do it all the time. I thought that was fine coverage from Ciaran Neal. I thought that was ticky-tacky. I thought he was okay in coverage. It wasn't a very good game for him. I think his biggest issue was in run support, where we want to see him do well because he's a big linebacker type guy that could be this Buffalo nickel that we rave about, and he's just hasn't been that. But I thought he gave up a number of receptions, but he was there to make the tackles, and it wasn't as good as we've seen Taron Johnson, who's been breaking up pass plays,
Yeah.
and people are not going after him. He's given up one of the lowest passer ratings against him on this team.
Yeah.
I thought it was really
a lot
nice.
of fans were asking about Deshaun Jackson. Sounds like he was just reported that he signed with the Raiders.
He also can't
makes
play
sense.
guard, so
He also does not play. He would be a really bad guard. He would be
Actually,
really bad at guard.
would he with what we got right now?
Yes. I am confident he would be a worse guard than both Ike Botker, John Feliciano, and Cody Ford.
Bobby Hart, would he be worse than Bobby Hart?
All right. That now it's
Yeah.
close. It's close.
Okay.
We'll consider it.
Back to the defensive back. I thought Levi had a really nice game again
He did.
this week. He had a couple pass breakups. I thought he did a good job. They went at Trey. They weren't scared to go at Trey in this
No.
game, and he had a decent
There
game.
was
but he-
obviously a game plan early on to try to get into Trey White's head or to get him chippy
Yes.
coming back. That was weird. Like
Yes.
3 different receivers physically went at him.
Yeah, and they
on
had
the
that
first
horrible unnecessary roughness call on Trey on the first drive with Tavon
Yes.
Austin going. I didn't even get. They just wrestled to the ground, and then I didn't think either of them should have got a flag, let alone Trey, who didn't do anything. Like I didn't get that.
He did throw him, and those cases stink because they always get the guy that gets the most agitated at the end. I think that's probably what we're also going to see when we actually see what happened to Levi Wallace. I don't think it was taunting. I think the guy chipped at Levi after the whistle, and there was probably some type of scuffle. And they called
It's the only one that I will get. I want to see the video of it. But if he did do something worthy of today's version of taunting on a critical play like that, you just gave up a 4th down conversion. What in the world are you taunting over?
What we did see,
the concept of that was infuriating. We didn't see it.
What we did see though was the wide receiver after the play seemingly was over, came in and was chippy on Levi out on the outside. We were like,
oftentimes the second guy gets caught, the instigator or
the
initiator.
NFL needs to clean that up. It's when the guy that gets the attention from the refs. That's when you need to be able to call back to the booth in New York and say, wait, what happened? Did a guy hit him before that? Because you should be able to retaliate if somebody hits you after the play or hits you when it's not part of the play or something like that. So I'm not going to, until I see that on Levi, I'm not going to blame him for that.
Yeah, I want that hockey call, that instigating. I want that instigator call like you get in
Give me
hockey when 2 dudes fight. Give it to me.
Yeah, but real quick, even though I didn't notice Poyer and he played the whole game, Micah Hyde, I think sneaky. We talked about Matt Milano being the MVP of this defense for the year.
Let's bring it up here. Uncle Jumbo's spotlight player of the game. I think
Micah Hyde's freaking
it certainly
nasty
needs to
at
come
football.
up on the defensive side of the ball. There's a couple candidates, and I think Hyde's a great start.
I think Hyde is the best player on this defense right now. I think week in, week out for 4 or 5 years now, consistently being the best player on this defense. It's him. I love Poyer, and I think that they operate well together, but I do think that perhaps Hyde has taken that step above him, in my opinion, on who matters the most to this Bills defense. He's everywhere, dude. And the way he was hitting today, add in that to his ability to play in coverage and play center, and he can come up and hit. There's nothing he can't do, man. And he's the unquestioned leader, of this team. When he talks, he sets the tone for this defense.
I'll throw in. I had Micah as well. I'll give a shout out to Matt Milano. I thought he deserved an honorable mention. A couple really, really strong flash plays and was consistently there, taking his guy away in coverage and being able to go there. I don't know that any individual player on the defensive line deserves, like you said, the efficiency from Mario Addison was good in the limited snaps to have a quarterback hit, a sack, and another pressure. But I thought that Hyde was really, really good today, and that Milano deserved a call out. Any other names flash for you, Anthony?
I was going to say, you mentioned that Mike. I thought Milano had a couple good plays, but Micah, I think, is head and shoulders above everybody in the type of the quality of plays that he made and in the volume in which he did it. You could make a case for a couple nice guys. Mitch Trubisky getting a ton. Oh yeah, that was very good too.
So Nabil here with maybe the comment of the day. Player of the game, Mitch Trubisky, for getting a taunting call on the first play without even being in Jacksonville. So, I'm not going to rant too much. The Bills are the reason that they lost this game.
Yes.
The referees did not lose them this game. The Bills lost this game. However, the referees were horrendous today. Miscalling which team it was on, having to change penalties 15-20 seconds later, one being that the taunting call was on Laviska Shenault, not on Mitch Trubisky, who wasn't even in the stadium that day. Multiple other misses, 2 horrible false starts that were very obvious, like a full half second before the ball was snapped, and nobody called it, and then to set it up, and the Bills contributed to this plenty. They gave them ammo to call stupid taunting and unnecessary roughness and unsportsmanlike conduct, and those are stupid lack of discipline calls. But man, an awful lot of those were ticky-tack, and an awful lot of those were ones that were not seemingly called both ways. So again, that's not a cop-out. The referees are not why they lost this game. The Bills lost this game. The referees surely didn't help.
That I think, see, that's part, like, I never want to blame the refs. Same thing in baseball. Like, I never want to be like, well, the umps lost us this game with balls and strikes, yada, yada. You can still overcome that, and it still comes down to you. The problem I have more with these penalties in this game, the false starts. So the one by the goal line was bad. The one previously in that drive on 3rd and 10, I thought was more egregious. The Jags convert that 3rd down. They end up getting a field goal. The Dan Arnold catch that they reviewed that I was showing you guys offline, he gets his feet down, but when he lands, the ball moves and comes out, and he has to trap it against his hip. That wasn't a catch. That also leads to 3 points. Now, I also don't subscribe to like, well, you take those 6 points off the board and the Bills win 6-3. You don't know what's going to happen in the entire rest of the game. The Jags could have somehow scored a touchdown instead, or the Bills could have turned it over more. You don't know what's going to happen. But I thought, the refs were inconsistent on both sides, bad calls, bad communication, not understanding what side the penalties were on, whose numbers were what, just little explanation. And then combined with the fact that when the Bills were getting penalties, it continued drives for Jacksonville, led them to getting points in a game where, a field goal decided it and both teams scored under 10. I think that hurts even more. But, that Manning curse. Greg, I feel like Greg,
Aaron, I want to give Aaron a quick moment for a victory lap. Not only is the Manning curse real, the apparently white jersey, blue pants curse is real, and I am capable of jinxing the team. All things proven that you tried to tell us that curses are real, and apparently curses are very, very real.
Yeah, I don't ever want to see the Bills play in Jacksonville again. That place is cursed for us as well. In terms of refereeing, I'm not going to blame the Bills' loss at all on the refs. Mm-hmm. But I'm getting to the point, guys, where and it's not just Bills games, because I'm with you, Ant. I'm not one of these guys that blames the officials. I hate when I see it on Twitter when people are just blaming the officials for losses or things like that. Like, there's a human element to this game. Officials are going to get calls wrong. I can live with a certain curve of, hey, there's going to be some of that. There's some give and take. But this year, collectively throughout the NFL, through 9 weeks, has been poor officiating, and the officials are taking over the game of football. NFL officiating, I don't know if there's too many rules, if there's too much pressure on them to call certain things. I'm sure they get notes from coaches every week of what teams are doing, and you got to call this, and everybody wants to get calls. It's become too much. It's making the game less enjoyable to have the refs stop the game so much, be an influence on games. Like the refs should be a secondary part of football, not stealing the show.
You shouldn't even notice they're there.
Yeah, it's really getting frustrating to me. We see more from they're the stars of games nowadays, and it really shouldn't be that way. The NFL really has to look at how they call things, what they call. I'm an old school guy with some of let them play. Unless it's an egregious thing, there's something you can call on every play. So unless these things are egregious and really impact the outcome, we got to learn to hold on to our flags a little bit in this league, because it's just, this game just felt like it never was, neither team was able to get momentum because there was just a flag all the time, and some of it was on the teams. Like, I don't want you to not call style. Like, there were some egregious penalties happening in this game, and a sloppy game from both teams. But when the refs just become something that gets in the way of the game, I think that's when it's gone too far. And we've seen a number of cases of this throughout the NFL all year. This isn't a Bills problem. No, the refs aren't out to get the Bills. Yeah. This is a league-wide issue that the refs suck.
Yeah, you shouldn't have to go into a game thinking like, well, what crew do we have today, and how do they call this, and what's going to happen? Like, you should be worrying about, okay, offense versus defense, special teams, matchups, and instead the referees are a legitimate piece of the action at this point, and it should not be that way. Solid point.
Some wisdom from my mama. Love the Bills, don't love their play today.
That's all it is.
Hashtag analysis.
One week at a time, man. It's week-to-week league.
A couple quick things before we get to the final thoughts. Special teams today. Oddly, special teams is probably a positive.
The Isaiah McKenzie experience, though, man, it's
Tyler Bass was great again. Didn't miss any kicks. Made all his kicks. Everything was there. Isaiah McKenzie, awesome return. Also gave us some agita in almost fumbling another one.
And then didn't catch one he could have probably fair caught.
Yeah, probably could have come up and got one that he let bounce. Matt Hawk had his best punt as a Bill today. 59 yards inside the 10-yard line. Unfortunately, whichever gunner it was, I don't know if it was Saran or Taiwan Jones, missed the tackle, let him get, maybe like a 12-yard return. It wasn't anything crazy.
Taiwan had a tough day.
Could have been back there. Taiwan Jones tried to block a punt and got running into the kicker. Also, Matt Hawk in one of the tough ones where you were really hoping to pin him deep, had a ball check up at the 1 and go into the end zone where we really could have used the possibility after the Ike Botker false start and they decided to punt on 4th and 7. That's one where we did get the ball back. That wasn't they didn't give anything up there, but that was one where we certainly would have liked to see them be able to pin it deep and try to get back with great field position, where obviously today field position would have really mattered. Any comments on special teams, or you guys into coaching?
Another decent return by McKenzie called back.
Yes.
On a play. Was that Klein or Matakevich? One of the two there on, but so that's become
they called Klein for like unnecessary roughness.
Yeah,
and they never showed what it was for.
I didn't
they showed some weird block, but it was a legal block, and then he kept running upfield and the camera cut away and they never showed it, and I didn't get it.
Maybe there was something out of bounds, whatever it is. Even if it was a legit no call, it's become a thing for the Bills special teams that the good plays get called back because of returns, and this is, I think that's the kind of penalties I hate the most. So that's about it on special teams for me.
I thought they were all right. McKenzie we continue to talk about when he gets the ball, he does really good things with the ball, but I think it's still scary and worrisome when the ball's in the air. Yeah, you don't the one where he let it bounce, not to harp on it, that came very close to touching two of his blockers right in front. It could have been a turnover. So I don't want to.
That's why you catch it.
Correct. That is exactly why you catch it. So that's where that decision-making comes in, and I don't want to nitpick on that. And I know a lot of people, for whatever reason, anytime we say anything negative about Isaiah McKenzie, everybody jumps on about how we're terribly negative. But you see, Aaron, like you mentioned, that roller coaster, that up and down. But there's no denying when he gets the ball in his hands,
it's electric.
He's electric, and he's fantastic.
I want to see more Isaiah McKenzie on offense. I want to see the jet sweep inserted back into this offense. I want to see.
How about a day like today where Cole Beasley was dinged up?
What? That's a weird thing that I don't think we're potentially talking about enough. He has disappeared from this offensive usage compared to years prior. He's not getting anything. There's not even like slot snaps or receiver snaps, let alone the jet sweeps and the creative niche looks that he's known for. That gadgetry has been
gone.
Yeah, it's gone, and it's been a nice piece to keep defenses off balance, and we're not seeing it at all. Like, that's a big thing.
I'm watching
Let's
the
talk about
replay.
coaching.
Yeah, I'm watching the replay here when McDermott was furious about calling Botker for a false start.
That wasn't
on
false
the
start
replay.
on Botker.
No, it was absolutely offsides.
They
Taven
drew him.
Bryan
I thought he moved on his own.
He is a full yard across and almost touches Ike Botker before he ever comes out of his stance. I'm
really?
Watching it.
The 4th and 2?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can show it right here. Since we're here on the show, might as well share it with everybody so they can take a look. As we're looking at it here, so ready, here it starts. Ready, he starts to move here. Botker hasn't moved. All the way across the line, starts to move. The defender's all the way across the line before Botker ever even starts to move.
Oh, maybe I'm thinking of a different one that there was a false start on Botker.
So that would have been a conversion.
Different one.
That would have been a free for, like, that's why he was mad. That should have been a free first down that he obviously fell for the hard count. No other defender moves. No one else goes anywhere. He very obviously fell for the hard count.
This is where New York has to step in. If we're going to have this,
that changes the game. That's a first down at the 37-yard line to be able to go through there.
But I feel like, does Botker move at 4 seconds or 5 seconds? Does he start to hitch a little bit and move back? Watch, here it comes. Does he start to lean right here? He moves. He sits up a little. No? Or am I crazy?
I think you're crazy.
You might, maybe. But are you calling that in that spot? If there's, It's tough. New York needs to be able to look at these.
It's also
and make
funny
those
too
changes
that
fast.
like he gets bagged on that false start, but the two egregious ones on Jacksonville
the
early
two
in the game are
horrendous
not
ones
noticed.
where they're moving way back.
Like the fact that we even have to try and dissect it and think about it
Yeah.
versus the ones that are clear in present day.
And,
lack of
and
consistency.
Aaron, you said it similar to where Mac's comments are here is that, hey, it's not the reason, it's not there, but good Lord,
But
that's
it's
an important
frustrating.
moment to mess up a call like that where
Yeah.
everybody else watching from the sideline is screaming at it to be like, hey, we got him. That was the intent, was a hard count to be able to get him to jump, and they did. No one else on the defense moved. He clearly fell for it. He did, and regardless of the scenario there, he definitely didn't move because of Ike Bacher. Like that wasn't there. He fell for the hard count and came across there. But any final things as we get into coaching here? It's there were. I think this is similar to where in some of the other frustrating situations, I think McDermott trusts his gut on days where the offense is struggling, that he believes the math is not the same, that your likelihood to convert on days where the offense is clicking is different than your likelihood to convert on days where the offense is struggling. We saw that happen where the Chiefs defensive line was manhandling them in the in the AFC Championship game. There were plays that all of us screamed, oh, they should go for it. Well, there's a reason they didn't in some of those, because he didn't think they were going to convert. There were some of those kind of things today where I still, even after the Bacher call, even after that on 4th and 7, I still kind of would have liked to have seen him gone for it. It didn't crush them. They punted. They got the ball back. They had a chance there, but it was a lack of aggression against a theoretically inferior opponent. There's a couple things I would have liked to have seen. And then if anything from the coaching standpoint, it was certainly not an impressive performance from Brian Daboll. We spent the entire show pointing out bad decisions by Josh, drops by receivers, really bad play from the offensive line. It's not all on Brian Daboll. I think the people who are putting this at his feet as the reason that the offense was bad today are misguided. He certainly didn't help.
Yeah, but he shouldn't be fired though, as a lot of people are
I agree.
lobbying for.
Yeah.
For his head, for him to be burned at the stake. Yeah, I think that's my big overall thing for coaching the offensive side of the ball, the lack of adjustments, something that Brian Daboll and this Bills team have been known for. We saw it happen against Miami last week, and we were applauding him for it. The second half spamming of Cole Beasley in the slot and over the middle of just being like, hey, there's the weakness, attack it. And they adjusted earlier in that game too as well. But there just didn't seem to be any answer for what Jacksonville was doing, and especially when they started to really tee off on that defensive line. It would have been nice to see any type of window dressing or some jet motions or anything, because we would do something and then it was like, well, it wouldn't work. All right, screw it. Let's just go back to what we were doing earlier. That also didn't work. The execution was poor. I think to Deion Hawkins is a fantastic name. Every time he comments on Twitter on anything of mine, it makes me laugh. So I love that name. I think it's a little bit of a perpetual cycle and a chicken and the egg scenario with the play calling and the execution. They both weren't ideal. I don't know which I'm going to say is worse until I can see the all 22. I'll put it like this. I don't think the play calling was good enough to supplement like what was going on offensively and course correct for that, which I would have liked to see, but just bad all around. And I'm really focused on the offensive coaching at this point and just how lackluster it was.
Yeah, I think you nailed some of the points I wanted to make. But what I will say, I think there's a little chink in the process armor today. Mm-hmm. You come off of kind of a flat game out of the bye, barely get by a division opponent. I say barely, they covered the spread, but still a more
it wasn't a pretty
game.
It wasn't pretty. Game.
Yeah, and you're coming up on this now schedule of Jaguars and Jets. And Greg, I don't think you were unfounded in saying Sean McDermott team.
There were no examples.
Sleeping on
none.
Yes, but now you do have this, and you can tell. I'm going to put this back on the head coach because it was a sloppy game. Even though we're bitching about the refs, the Bills committed a lot of penalties.
Undisciplined
game.
Poor ones, yeah.
There was no real. They were just lackadaisical, especially on offense. The defense played fine.
The bait from Jacksonville.
Yeah, they played down to their opponent, and at the end of the day, the buck stops at Sean McDermott's desk. He's the king of the process, and under a team with all the leadership council we hear about, the makeup of the players that we hear about, the type of guys they bring in. These situations shouldn't occur. You have the talent to beat them. And when talent doesn't work, you have the DNA, right? We hear about the DNA all the time and all this stuff. When it's tough, these guys are there. You're supposed to be able to overcome this no matter the odds, no matter the officials, no matter what type of day they're having. You have all these things that you've told us for years that are supposed to overcome this, and you just get out with the dub, which I thought was going to happen all the way up to the last drive. I thought, all right, now they're just going to get a touchdown. We'll get out of here with an ugly win, and we'll pick apart this win the rest of the week. But they're going to win this game no matter what. And they fell short. And at the end of the day, we can nitpick everybody, but it falls to Sean McDermott. It really does.
No, I think that's completely fair. In the same way that we opened up my comments about Josh Allen, I'm not saying that I don't want Sean McDermott as my coach anymore. I don't want him to be here, that he's not a valuable part of this team. But for the first time in a significant period of time, Sean McDermott was part of the reason we lost today. Like he contributed to this loss and was, there as a net negative to what we contributed. And that if you're not able to get your team prepared and organized, that doesn't mean they're not going to win again. That doesn't mean that they're not going to get things straightened out and organized and back on the right run. And I think they could do all those things. We'll get to that in our final thoughts. But today, to have people like Brian Daboll, like Sean McDermott, like Josh Allen, that have been, significant contributors to the positive success of this team, now contribute negatively and be a reason that you lost, that is infuriating. It's frustrating, and it hurts in the faith and confidence that so many people had in the organization, in the team, and it makes it harder to say, oh, don't worry, it's going to be fine, because the same people that you now are going to put that confidence in are part of the reasons that you lost today, and that makes that harder, and it's going to take time to re-earn that trust. Why don't we go around and give some of those final thoughts? Anthony, where is your head at as we're trying to clear this out and figure out a way to move ahead?
My biggest thing these last several weeks, even through the wins and losses, I've been focused for a majority of the season on the offensive line and red zone efficiency, and I thought both of those things were lackluster, to say the least. Today, it's something I'm going to continue to worry about until it gets solidly fixed. The offensive line, I think they are what they are at this point. I think they're a middling offensive line, but I want to see what happens in the red zone. There needs to be course correction. We didn't really have a lot of red zone opportunities today, but when we weren't executing well. The play, I don't want to get into it too much, but yeah, red zone execution and efficiency, offensive line play are very worrisome for me right now. And I think you need to be you don't necessarily need to be the best in those areas to win a Super Bowl, but you have to not be deficient. And those have to be areas where you're not vulnerable. And I think right now we are for a multitude of reasons. So that's other than just being, very disheartened today, that's my focus. Another game where offensive line play and red zone efficiency comes into play, and, those things need to get fixed, but on to New York and burn this film and, move on.
Aaron, what are your closing thoughts?
Well, first of all, I'm an idiot over the Jordan Poyer comments earlier.
We're all in a bad headspace. Don't
listen to me. But this game was just a weird one to watch. I do think when we come out of this fuzz and this anger that we have, I do think we look at this as a really horrible hiccup and a blemish on this season. But I don't know that it's much more than a really horrible blemish on what will all otherwise be a really good season. I do think the Bills need to be brought down a notch. I think I think they need to take all the negative comments that are coming their way. I think they need to be brought down a notch, and maybe they aren't necessarily when you lose the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think if you're a Super Bowl contender, maybe you're brought down to that next tier until you prove otherwise. I think that's where we are with this team. But I think this is still, there's enough good players on this team. I do believe in the makeup of this team. We just talked about Sean McDermott being part of the reason why, but you know what gives me that hope going forward is he's the exact guy I want in this locker room after a loss like this. It's not going to be a fun week to be around Sean McDermott watching film after losing to the Jaguars and him having to go talk about a press conference and be embarrassed in front of the national media here this week. So that's not going to be fun. I think they will course correct. I'm going to still be confident going up against the Jets. I think this is a great game to get some confidence before you have a stretch coming up here, which could get a little tough. But we really want this team to have some of these answers figured out or some corrections by around Thanksgiving. I think we want to be starting to play our best football heading in there. We got a long ways to go. There's around 3 months left of football here for this Bills team. So I think we're going to look back at this and kind of laugh and be like, God, that was so weird. What the hell happened? How did we lose to the Jaguars? But in the big picture, I still think this team has all the pieces to do some special things. But I agree with you, Ant. I think some of the things in that red zone efficiency and this offensive line, those are the big takeaways here, guys. I don't know that there's an answer, but there's got to be something they do to get around that deficiency and that Achilles heel. Every team's got one. Every team's got a weakness. How do the Bills absorb that? That's a pretty big weakness, especially when you're going to have to play a Tampa Bay. You know what I mean? Like I want nothing to do with that defensive line. So they still have a ways to go, but this is not, I don't think this loss defines who the Buffalo Bills are their season will be. But this week's going to be tough. I'm sure there's a lot of people cussing me out for even talking like that right now.
No, I think it's a really wise way to approach this. The important parts to take away here are, it's not halfway through the season yet. The Bills have completed 8 games. They have 9 games to go. They're 5-3. They have some important wins already notched. They now let up another conference loss. For some of the folks, and I think Eugene's saying that there are no Super Bowl contenders in the AFC. Just a heads up, the Buccaneers lost their last game, and the Broncos got smoked. The Broncos smoked the Cowboys today. So there's also plenty of teams in the NFC that are losing games. The Packers are likely going to lose today and have a quarterback that's in his own embattled situation. All of those things are reasons to remember, just like when we said, oh my gosh, how did the Titans lose to the Jets? All those kind of games are the important context of those single games don't represent an entire season. It does show that people like me shouldn't get as overconfident as I did yesterday, that Sean McDermott needs to do a better job keeping the team focused and their attention on what they need to do and not, giving ammo to let referees make calls like that, and that they need to show up more prepared and ready to perform in a game like this. But they've also given us plenty of examples and ammunition that they are capable of doing that they can show up and execute and perform and beat really good teams and be able to put that kind of performance there, and that they have many winnable games through the remainder of this schedule and are still in position to be able to do that. If the playoffs started today, they'd be in the playoffs and they'd be right there with a chance to be able to move forward. They still are in a spot, depending on where your head is at, root for the Rams tonight against the Tennessee Titans. They're still right there with a chance to get the number 1 seed, even after a frustrating, infuriating loss to the Jacksonville Jaguars. There are so many other things there. Games like last week, games like today are showing that this is not a flawless team. Michael's comment is spot on. There is a chink in the armor. There is a potential to be able to beat this team because they don't have a flawless, roster and lineup. They have chinks in the armor that can be beaten. However, they also have several exceptional players playing at a really high level who can come in and make really good plays, and they've shown the ability to bounce back from games like this before. So let a game like today hurt. Let it kind of burn in your belly. It's what's going to happen to Sean McDermott. It's what's going to happen to this team. They've shown the ability to bounce back before and have really impressive performances after frustrating losses. We need to see that. They need to prove that to us. They need to show us that, but they get a chance to do that 7 days from now when they're going to be able to show up and play the New York Jets and have a chance to be able to win that game and take out some of this frustration. It's okay to be mad. It's okay to be disappointed. You should be frustrated. You should be infuriated. You should be embarrassed by
Don't
a
be
loss
mean,
like this.
though. Be mad, be frustrated, don't be mean.
Be productive. Take a break from football. Take a break. Walk away from things. Don't take in as much content for the next day or so.
I'm gonna go clean the house.
Go clean the house. Go for a walk. Put up some Christmas decorations like Aaron Quinn is, I'm sure.
Yep.
I'm gonna go egg
ready.
Aaron's house.
Get yourself into a positive headspace so that you can get back to enjoying football again. In a couple days, we're all going to be there. We're going to be ready. We're going to be ready for the next game day. The Bills are going to win more games. We're going to be excited about those wins, and then they'll be able to take it to be able to go forward. Rich, another one one of our Cover One contributors, offering for you guys to come clean his house. He's open for that kind of opportunity.
I'm on my way. I'll grab the car
to be able to vent and take that away. So, Elijah here, let's hope. Let's hope this is productive frustration. Let's hope that they can get this really, kind of cleansed from their system. They've shown us the ability to do that in the past. It's okay to think that that's the opportunity we're going to see again. You've seen it before. They've shown the capability. We need to see it again. They need to be able to prove that to us to be able to go through. Thank you very much, Andy. We've had a ton of people in here watching today after a loss, a ton of people in the chat. You guys have been fantastic. We really, really appreciate you guys very, very much. But this has been a tough game. We appreciate our sponsors, Uncle Jumbo's, West Herr, the Underdog Fantasy app. Make sure you download that. Use promo code COVER1. On behalf of Anthony Prohaska and Aaron Quinn, I am Greg Tompsett. You have been listening to Cover One Buffalo, and we